The doorbell rang at 7:42 p.m., right when the pasta on the stove was beginning to boil, and my daughter Harper was coloring butterflies on the living room floor. For a moment, I thought it was just a package, maybe the Amazon order I'd forgotten I placed during one of those exhausted late nights. But the second the bell rang again, sharper, more urgent, my chest tightened. Something was wrong. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked toward the door. Through the peephole, I saw a man I had never seen before, early 40s, suit jacket wrinkled, eyes haunted. Snow clung to his shoulders like he'd been standing there far too long. When I opened the door, the cold air rushed in with him. "Are you Lauren Whitfield?" he asked, voice unsteady. "Yes." My fingers curled around the edge of the door. He swallowed hard, then held out a thick envelope, creased, worn, touched by too many hands.
"I'm sorry to come like this, but your husband, Ethan, he's not who you think he is." My heartbeat stuttered. He continued, "He owes us answers, and he's been lying to you for a very long time." Then he stepped aside, revealing the impossible. Printed photos of Ethan holding another woman, kissing her outside a hotel I recognized instantly. The image felt like a slap. My breath caught somewhere between shock and denial. The man whispered, "You deserve to know before everything explodes." Before everything explodes. Harper's tiny voice floated from the living room. "Mummy, who's at the door?" I couldn't answer, because in that frozen moment, standing in the doorway of my own home, pasta boiling behind me and my life unraveling in front of me, I realized this wasn't just a stranger. This wasn't just bad news. This was the moment my marriage died. And the worst part, it was only the beginning. I didn't invite the man inside, but he stepped over the threshold anyway, slowly, cautiously, like someone entering a crime scene. Snowflakes melted on my hardwood floor. My instincts screamed to shut the door in his face, but something about the heaviness in his expression made me freeze. "My name is Marcus Lee," he said quietly. "I worked with your husband." I felt my pulse spike. "Worked?" He hesitated. "Ethan was escorted out of the firm yesterday." His voice dropped. "It wasn't just about money. There are investigations. Federal ones." The room tilted for a moment. Behind me, Harper hummed softly, still coloring butterflies, completely unaware her world was cracking open. I nodded toward the kitchen table. "Talk, but make it quick." Marcus set the envelope down like it contained explosives. "Your husband owes a lot of people answers. He borrowed money from colleagues, lied about investment opportunities." Then everything spiraled when Aubrey entered the picture. "Aubrey?" I whispered, though her name already pulsed in my brain like a bruise. "She's been with him for months," Marcus continued. "He convinced her they'd move in together once he sorted things out with his wife. But that wasn't the truth." I swallowed hard. "Then what is the truth?" He looked at me with something like pity. "He's drowning. And when men like him drown, they drag down everyone around them." The words hit harder than the photos. Marcus slid a second envelope toward me. "This is what made me drive here tonight. He's been transferring funds out of your joint account, large ones. If he gets desperate, he might try to pin things on you." A chill moved through me, sharper than the winter air. "He wouldn't," I said automatically, but even I didn't believe it. Marcus shook his head. "I've seen this before. When someone's cornered, they stop thinking about family. They think about survival." My hands shook as I opened the second envelope. Bank statements,
Withdrawals I never approved, transfers I never saw, dates matching the photos, matching the lies. Every thread of my marriage, every promise, every memory began unraveling right there on my kitchen table. Marcus stepped back. "I'm sorry. I know this is a lot, but you needed to hear it before something worse happens." Before something worse happens. The words echoed long after he left. Because deep down, under the shock and disbelief, a terrifying truth settled in my chest. Ethan wasn't just betraying me. He was preparing to destroy me.
For hours after Marcus left, I sat at the kitchen table staring at the photos, the bank statements, the life I thought I understood. The house was silent, except for the faint ticking of the old wall clock Ethan insisted we keep because it made the place feel homey. Now its sound felt like a countdown to something dark. My mind drifted, not because I wanted to remember, but because betrayal makes you revisit every memory like a crime scene. In my head, our marriage replayed in fragments. There was the night Ethan proposed on the pier in Hoboken, the Manhattan skyline glowing behind him. I'd cried, thinking I'd found the kind of love my mother always said was rare. He kissed my forehead and whispered, "I'll take care of you." I believed him. There were Saturday mornings when he brought home Starbucks, placing my caramel latte beside me while Harper crawled into our bed. He looked like the definition of a devoted father. And there were the business trips, too many of them, where he'd come home exhausted, smelling of hotel soap and unfamiliar perfume. I once asked about it. He laughed, kissed my cheek, and said, "Lauren, you worry too much." I remember the first time money went missing. He blamed a bank error. The second time, he blamed a technical glitch with payroll. By the third time, I blamed myself for asking. That was how Ethan worked. Slow erosion, gentle gaslighting, soft lies that looked like love. I remembered when he started criticizing my clothes, my routines, my job. "You don't have to work," he'd say. "Let me handle the hard stuff." It sounded caring. It was control. A sick realization washed over me. I had mistaken manipulation for affection. Then came the memory that gutted me, Harper's 3rd birthday. Ethan carried her around the park, balloons trailing behind them. People watched him like he was a perfect father. I watched him and thought I had the perfect husband. But perfection was only the mask. I pressed my palm against my forehead, ashamed of how blind I had been. None of the red flags were subtle. I simply chose to paint them white. And now the paint was peeling, fast. Because the man I married, the man I trusted with my child, my life, my future, never really existed. The front door clicked open at 10:17 p.m. I didn't need to look up to know it was Ethan. His footsteps had a rhythm I knew by heart, confident, heavy, always a little impatient. I stayed at the kitchen table, the photos spread in front of me like evidence waiting for a jury. He walked in, loosening his tie, scrolling casually on his phone. "Why's the house so quiet?" he asked, not noticing the tension thick enough to choke on. "Ethan," I said, voice steady in a way that cost me everything. "We need to talk." He finally looked at me, really looked, and in that split second something hardened in his expression. Not guilt, not fear. Annoyance. "What now, Lauren?" I slid the photos toward him. "Explain this." He stared at them for half a second before leaning back, exhaling sharply through his nose. "Unbelievable," he muttered. "You really going to fall for this? Whoever gave you these is lying." "Lying," I whispered. "They literally show you with her, with Aubrey." He laughed,
an empty, cold sound that made my skin crawl. You don't get it, do you? People are trying to bring me down. They'll use anything, Photoshop, rumors, whatever. I forced the next words out. She came here, Ethan, in person. That got his attention.
His jaw flexed. What did she tell you?
That she's been with you for months.
He scoffed. Lauren, she's obsessed with me. She's unstable, always exaggerating. I've tried to keep her away from us.
Away from us?
My voice cracked.
Ethan, you kissed her outside the Langford Hotel. How do you explain that?
For the first time, his eyes sharpened, calculating, not apologetic. If you keep digging into this, Lauren, you're going to make things worse for yourself.
Worse? I repeated. Ethan, my life is already falling apart. He leaned in, voice low, chillingly calm. You don't want to start a fight with me. Trust me on that. That was the moment everything inside me shifted. His tone wasn't defensive. It was threatening. You think you know what's happening, he said, straightening his tie again. But you don't.
And if you're smart, you'll stop asking questions.
I looked at him, truly looked, and realized the man standing in my kitchen wasn't scared of losing me. He was scared of losing control, and that was far more dangerous. I didn't realize my voice had risen until I saw Ethan glance toward the hallway, annoyed, not concerned. That alone told me everything about the man he truly was. I stood there, trembling, not from fear, but from the horrifying clarity that the life I'd been defending all these years was nothing but smoke. You're threatening me now? I asked, my fingers digging into the back of a kitchen chair. Ethan rolled his eyes. Lauren, stop being dramatic. You always blow things out of proportion. A familiar tactic, turning my pain into my fault. But tonight, something in me cracked differently. I stepped closer. You lied, Ethan. You cheated. You stole.
You dragged us into your mess. He opened his mouth to spit another polished excuse, but a small, quivering voice cut through the kitchen like glass.
Mommy, are you mad at Daddy?
My heart stopped. Harper stood in the hallway, clutching her stuffed rabbit by one limp ear, her curls messy, her eyes wide and wet. She'd been listening, God knows for how long. The innocence in her face made my knees weaken. I crouched down immediately. Sweetheart, you should be in bed. She took a shaky step toward me. You were yelling. Ethan suddenly put on the gentle father mask, the one he wore so easily. Harper, honey, Daddy and Mommy are just talking. Everything's fine. But children can smell lies better than adults. Harper shook her head. No, Mommy's crying. Only then did I feel the wetness on my cheeks. Ethan shot me a sharp, accusing look, as if my tears were the real problem here.
I'm not crying because of you, I whispered to Harper, pulling her into my arms.
You did nothing wrong. Nothing.
Ethan stepped forward. Lauren, stop scaring her. You always do this. Stop. My voice came out low, steady, unfamiliar even to me. Just stop talking. For the first time, Ethan actually looked thrown off. Not guilty, annoyed at losing control of the narrative. Harper's tiny hand clung to my sweater, trembling. In that moment, something in me hardened. Not anger, not revenge, but a vow. A vow that I would protect my daughter from this man, from this chaos, from every lie he tried to bury us under. And deep inside, beneath the fear and heartbreak, a new truth rose like a quiet flame. This wasn't just the collapse of a marriage.
It was the beginning of a war. The next morning, I woke up feeling like someone had poured cement into my chest.
Every breath was heavy, every movement slow. Ethan had already left for work, if that's even where he went anymore. The house felt colder without his presence, which was ironic considering how suffocating he'd made it the night before. Harper padded into the kitchen in her unicorn pajamas, rubbing her eyes.
Mommy, she whispered, are you still sad?
I knelt beside her, smoothing her curls. A little, but we're going to have a nice day together, okay? She nodded, trusting me in a way that broke me all over again. I needed air, space to think without walls closing in. So I bundled Harper into her coat, grabbed my worn iPhone from the counter, and drove us to the Barnes & Noble in Jersey City. It had always been our quiet place, our tiny escape from life. The moment we stepped inside, the familiar scent of books and warm paper wrapped around us like a blanket.
Harper ran toward the children's section, her stuffed rabbit bouncing with each step. For the first time since last night, I felt the smallest breath of relief. I wandered toward the self-help aisle, fingertips brushing along the spines of books I'd promised myself I would read someday. Atomic Habits, Untamed, The Body Keeps the Score. Each title seemed to whisper a truth I hadn't been ready to face. But today, I was listening. As I picked up a copy of Women Who Run with the Wolves, a voice behind me said, "That one saved me once." I turned sharply. A man stood near the display table, tall, steady, familiar in a way that jolted me. It was Daniel Mercer, the man I'd treated in the ER 2 years ago after a car accident. I never forgot his eyes, sharp, observant, grateful. "Lauren?" he said, surprise softening his expression. I didn't think you'd remember me.
Of course I do." My voice trembled slightly. "What are you doing here?" "Coffee next door ran out of lids," he said with a small, warm smile, lifting a Starbucks cup. "So I hid in here to avoid humanity." Despite myself, I laughed, a small, fragile laugh, but real. He studied my face, his smile fading into something gentler. "Are you okay?" No one had asked me that sincerely in years. And for a moment, standing between shelves of books and broken pieces of my life, I realized I didn't know how to answer. For a long moment, I didn't speak. Daniel waited, not filling the silence, not rushing me. It was disarming. I wasn't used to someone giving me space without asking for something in return. "I'm fine," I finally said. It was a lie. And the way Daniel's eyes softened told me he recognized it instantly. "You don't have to be," he said quietly.
Something in me wavered. I looked down at the book in my hands, blinking away the sting behind my eyes.
"It's just been a rough couple of days." "Rough," Daniel repeated gently. "Or dangerous?" I stared at him, startled by the accuracy of his choice of words. Before I could respond, Harper came running back, clutching a picture book. "Mommy, can we read this one?" Her joy was a small light in the fog. "Of course," I murmured, kissing her hair. Daniel watched us, thoughtful. "Your daughter's adorable." "Thank you," I said softly. "She's everything." He hesitated, then asked, "Is Ethan treating you well?" The question hit me like a cold wind. My throat tightened. "Why would you ask that?" "Because," he said, lowering his voice, "you look like someone carrying more than you're saying." I opened my mouth, maybe to deny it, maybe to finally tell the truth. But the words tangled up.
Daniel wasn't family, wasn't a friend,
wasn't someone who owed me anything. And maybe that's why I almost wanted to tell him everything. Instead, I exhaled shakily. Things at home are complicated. Daniel studied my trembling fingers. If you ever feel unsafe or overwhelmed, you can call me. He slipped a simple business card from his wallet and placed it on the table between us. I mean that. Daniel, I said, unsure. I can't ask you. You're not asking, he interrupted gently. I'm offering. There was no flirtation, no hidden agenda, just concern, honest and steady. As I tucked the card into my coat pocket, Harper tugged my sleeve. Can we go home now? Home. The word twisted painfully. Daniel seemed to read the shift in my expression. Do you need a ride? It's snowing harder outside. I should have said no, but for the first time in years, letting someone help didn't feel like weakness. Yeah, I whispered. A ride would be nice. Daniel nodded once, calm, protective, certain. And that was the moment I felt the first flicker of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Safety. Snow clung to Daniel's Mercedes as he drove us home, the heater humming softly while Harper chattered in the back seat. Daniel listened with a warm patience I hadn't felt from anyone in years. When he pulled up in front of my house, he didn't rush me out of the car. He simply said, "Take care of yourself, Lauren. Really." Those words stayed with me long after I walked inside. But peace never lasted long in my home. Ethan came back earlier than usual that evening, slamming the front door with the kind of force meant to intimidate. I instantly knew something was wrong. "Where were you?" he demanded, still in his coat, breathing hard like he'd sprinted home. I blinked. "At Barnes & Noble, with Harper." His eyes narrowed suspiciously. "With who?" The question hit like a slap. "With our daughter," I repeated, slow and steady. "That's not what I meant." He stepped closer, jaw tight. "I saw a black Mercedes parked outside. You want to explain that?" My stomach turned. He had driven by. He was watching us. "It was Daniel," I said finally. "I ran into him. He offered us a ride because of the snow." Ethan laughed, but not the kind that came from humor. The sound was sharp, unhinged. "So now you're letting random men drive my wife and kid around?" "He's not random," I snapped before I could stop myself. "I treated him in the ER once. He remembered me." "That's worse," Ethan barked. "Guys like that don't remember out of gratitude." I froze. This wasn't jealousy. This was fear. Fear of losing the control he'd always had over me. He paced across the living room, running a hand through his hair. "You think you can play smart? Drag men into our problems." His voice rose. "Do you have any idea what position you're putting me in?" "I'm not putting you in anything," I said, trembling. "You did that to yourself." His head snapped toward me, and for the first time, I saw panic beneath the anger. He knew things were slipping. The lies, the affair, the money, everything was closing in on him. And Daniel's presence? That wasn't just a threat to Ethan's ego. It was a threat to the power he'd been abusing for years. He stared at me with a chilling certainty and whispered, "This isn't over, Lauren. Not even close." And just like that, the storm inside my home grew darker. Because Ethan wasn't spiraling. He was preparing for war. I barely slept that night. Ethan's threats circled my mind like vultures. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could hear was his voice.
Cold, steady, promising war. By morning, I felt hollow. Harper slept in late, so I used the quiet hour to comb through our online banking app on my cracked iPhone. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just checking, just trying to feel some sense of control. But control was the last thing I found. Page after page of transactions I didn't recognize appeared. Withdrawals I never approved. Transfers to accounts I'd never seen before. Some small, some massive. All hidden in plain sight. At first, I thought it was a glitch. Then I saw a name that made my blood run cold. Aubrey Dawson. Zelle transfer. $3,800. My vision blurred.
Another. Hotel Langford, Executive Suite, $1,276.94. Then, crypto exchange deposit, $12,500. My breath caught painfully in my throat. Ethan wasn't just cheating. He was funneling our savings, Harper's future, into something dangerous. Hands shaking, I opened our joint savings account. The number staring back at me was so low, I felt physically sick. He'd drained it. Every dream I'd saved for, Harper's school, a family trip, a future free of stress, it was all gone, sucked into a void Ethan had created behind my back. A sharp knock made me jump. Mrs. Collins from next door peeked through the glass panel beside the door. I opened it, trying to hide my panic. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "are you all right? You look pale." I forced a smile. "I'm fine, just tired." Her eyes narrowed with concern. "I heard arguing last night, and early this morning I saw Ethan leave in a rush. He nearly hit my garbage bins." Embarrassment flushed my cheeks. "It's been a week." She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "I don't want to meddle, honey, but I've seen him meeting that young woman, more than once, right outside your house." My stomach twisted. Even my neighbors had noticed what I tried so hard not to see. Mrs. Collins patted my arm. "You deserve better. Don't let him take everything from you." But he already had. The accounts, the money, the truth. And in that moment, standing in my doorway with shattered finances and a trembling heart, I realized something terrifying. Ethan hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. He'd weaponized our entire life against me. I spent the rest of the morning pacing the kitchen, my mind spinning between panic and disbelief. Every bank statement I'd uncovered replayed in my head like a nightmare on loop. Ethan had drained us, not just emotionally, financially, legally, strategically. He wasn't spiraling, he was preparing for something. And I was the target. Harper was busy drawing at the table while I tried to stop my hands from shaking long enough to dial my bank. But just as I pressed call, my phone buzzed with a different number. Daniel. For a moment I considered ignoring it, but something inside me, instinct, maybe survival, made me answer. "Lauren?" His voice was steady, calm. "You okay?" No one had asked me that with sincerity in years. I swallowed hard. "I'm trying." That sounds like a no. I closed my eyes. "Daniel, I don't know what to do. Ethan's not who I thought he was." There was a pause, quiet, thoughtful. "I know the look of someone being backed into a corner. I saw it yesterday on your face." My breath hitched. "You did?" "Yes," he said softly. "And I didn't want to push, but I can help you if you let me." Help. The word felt foreign. "I don't want to drag you into this," I whispered.
"You're not dragging me anywhere," he replied. "You're standing in a burning house. I'm just opening a door." Those words broke something open inside me. I exhaled shakily. Ethan drained our accounts. I think he's hiding more. "Then stop trying to handle this alone," Daniel said firmly. "Send me the statements. I'll look through them." "You don't have to." "I know I don't," he cut in, gentle but direct. "But I want to." After a few seconds, I forwarded every screenshot with trembling fingers. Within minutes, he responded. "Lauren, this isn't just financial trouble. These transfers look intentional, coordinated, possibly illegal." My heart dropped. Illegal. That meant danger. For Ethan. For me. For Harper. "Listen to me," Daniel said, voice lower now. "Until we know more, don't confront him.
Don't accuse him, and don't be alone with him if you can help it."
A chill ran down my spine.
"Daniel?" I whispered.
"Yeah?"
"Why are you helping me?"
Another quiet pause.
"Because you deserve someone in your corner," he said. "And because I know what men like Ethan are capable of."
And for the first time in days, I didn't feel entirely alone. Daniel didn't waste time. By early afternoon, he texted me an address in downtown Jersey City, an office building with glass walls and a quiet lobby that smelled like polished marble and expensive coffee. "Meet me here. Someone needs to talk to you." I almost backed out 3 times on the drive there. My hands were cold on the steering wheel, my mind a storm of fear and worst-case scenarios. But when I saw Harper safely with Mrs. Collins, I forced myself to go. For her.
The receptionist greeted me kindly and led me into a private conference room where Daniel and a woman in a navy blue suit were waiting. She rose, extending her hand with calm confidence.
"Lauren, I'm Julia Ramirez, family law attorney." The words made my stomach clench. She motioned for me to sit. Daniel stayed beside me, not hovering, not pushing, just present. Julia opened a folder. I reviewed the statements Daniel sent, and, I'll be honest, your husband isn't just hiding money. These transactions suggest financial misconduct, potentially criminal. My heart pounded painfully. If he goes down, will he take me with him? "That," Julia said softly, "is exactly what we need to prevent." I swallowed hard. "What do I do?" "First," she said, "you start protecting yourself. Document everything, dates, conversations, emotional incidents. Second, do not confront Ethan directly about the finances.
If he thinks you're catching on, he may escalate.
Escalate. The word made my skin prickle. Julia continued. "Third, we need to discuss custody. If he senses you're pulling away, he may try to paint you as unstable to gain leverage." My breath caught. "He wouldn't." Daniel's voice was quiet but firm. "Lauren, he would." Julia nodded sympathetically. "Men under pressure behave unpredictably, and based on the pattern I'm seeing, he's already building a narrative where you're emotional, overwhelmed, unable to care for your daughter." My throat tightened. "That's not true. I'm a good mother." "You are," Julia said. "But truth isn't always what decides cases. Evidence does." Her words dropped like stones into my chest. Daniel leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You're not alone in this. I'm here. We'll get through it." For a moment, I let myself breathe, just a little. Julia closed the folder.
"You need to understand, Lauren, this is no longer just a marriage problem. This is a legal battlefield."
And sitting in that conference room, beneath the soft hum of fluorescent lights, I finally grasped the terrifying reality.
Ethan wasn't just my husband. He was becoming my enemy. By the time I left Julia's office, the sun had dipped behind Jersey City's skyline, painting the streets in muted gold. My lungs felt tight, as if each breath carried a new piece of fear. I picked up Harper from Mrs. Collins' house, trying to smile for her, trying not to crumble. But everything inside me felt like wet paper, fragile, terrible. When we stepped out into the cold evening, my phone buzzed. "Daniel, are you okay? Do you need somewhere safe tonight?" I stared at the message. Safe. That word felt foreign. My home didn't feel safe. Ethan didn't feel safe. My marriage, my bank accounts, my future, none of it felt steady under my feet anymore. Before I could overthink it, I typed back, "I don't want to be alone tonight." He replied instantly, "Daniel, come to my place. I'm 5 minutes away." Daniel's apartment was on the 27th floor of a building overlooking the Hudson River. When he opened the door, warm light spilled out along with the scent of cedar and something comforting, like home, but not mine. "You're okay," he said softly, guiding us inside. He didn't ask questions, didn't pry. He simply took Harper's coat, handed her a small basket of Legos he'd saved from his nephew, and let her settle on the rug. I stood there awkwardly, hugging my arms around myself. "You don't have to pretend here," Daniel said. "Not with me." The kindness in his voice cracked something in me. Tears stung my eyes, and before I could turn away, one slid down my cheek. He stepped closer, but gently, giving me all the space to step back if I wanted. I didn't. I let him wrap a soft gray blanket around my shoulders, the same way someone might tend to a wounded bird. We sat on his couch, the city lights flickering below like scattered stars. "I feel like everything is falling apart," I whispered. "It's not falling apart," he said quietly. "It's being exposed, and that means you can finally rebuild." His words hit deeper than I expected. Harper laughed softly at her Legos, her small voice filling the room with innocence and hope. For the first time in days, my heartbeat steadied. Daniel wasn't rescuing me. He was reminding me I was still worth rescuing. And in the warm glow of his living room, wrapped in a blanket and a fragile sense of safety, one truth settled into my bones. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the first moment I felt the possibility of a new one. The next morning, I woke in Daniel's guest room to the soft hum of the city and the faint scent of freshly brewed coffee drifting down the hallway. For a moment, I allowed myself to feel the calm. Harper curled up beside me, safe, peaceful. But peace never lasted long in my life. My phone buzzed with 3 notifications, all from Ethan. "Ethan, where are you?" "Ethan, this isn't funny, Lauren." "Ethan, come home now before you make things worse for yourself." A cold dread settled in my stomach. Daniel must have noticed my trembling hands because he appeared in the doorway, concern etched in his expression. "He's already trying to pull you back in, isn't he?" I nodded weakly. "He always does." "Don't answer," Daniel said gently. "Not until you're ready." I wanted to listen. I did. But when you've spent years being conditioned to respond to someone's anger, it's like muscle memory. Still, I stayed quiet. When I finally returned home later that afternoon, Ethan was waiting, standing in the kitchen like a perfectly rehearsed scene. His hair combed, shirt pressed, smile gentle. Too gentle. "Lauren," he said warmly, "you scared me. I thought something happened." He stepped closer, arms open as if he were the picture of concern. Why would you vanish like that? Because you're dangerous. But I didn't say it. Instead, I watched him move through the room, soft voice, soft gestures, like he was auditioning for the role of devoted husband. And I realized exactly what he was doing. He was crafting a narrative.
You know, he continued, the neighbors probably saw you leave. They'll think you're unstable. I don't want people talking.
The word unstable sliced through me like ice. That's what you're trying to paint me as, I whispered. Isn't it? Ethan's smile barely faltered. Lauren, please. You're emotional. You're stressed. Anyone would be after whatever you think you saw. Gaslighting, smooth, practiced, lethal. He even walked over and tucked a hair behind my ear, murmuring, I'm worried about you. The touch made my stomach twist. Then he added softly, like it was nothing, let's keep things calm, okay? For Harper. Custody battles get messy when one parent isn't stable. There it was. The threat dressed as concern. He wasn't just creating a story. He was rewriting me.
And as I stood there, his manipulative smile inches from mine, one chilling truth settled in. Ethan was building a case against me long before I ever realized I needed one against him. The days that followed felt like moving through thick fog, heavy, disorienting, suffocating. Ethan's sudden tenderness at home, the soft voice, the gentle touches, the carefully crafted facade of concerned husband. It all made the air feel poisoned. I couldn't escape the sense that every word he spoke was rehearsed for an audience I couldn't see. But the breaking point came on Thursday afternoon. I was at the school, finishing lesson plans while Harper colored beside my desk. My phone buzzed again and again, texts from Ethan. Ethan, we need to talk. Ethan, Julia Ramirez reached out to me. Ethan, you're making yourself look guilty. Ethan, stop before you destroy everything. My throat tightened. Julia? Why would he know her name? Did he already have eyes on me? How much did he know? I tried to breathe, slow, steady, but the room began to tilt. My hands went numb. My vision tunneled, shrinking down to a small circle of spinning light. I gripped the edge of the desk, trying to anchor myself. Harper's voice echoed faintly, distant.
Mommy? Mommy, you look funny.
Funny. God, I couldn't breathe. Air wouldn't go in, wouldn't come out. My chest squeezed, my heart pounding in frantic, irregular bursts. Panic wrapped around me like a vice. I stumbled into the hallway, trying to get air, bracing a hand on the cold cinder-block wall. Teachers passed by, their voices blurring, fading. Someone asked if I needed a nurse, but all I could hear was Ethan's warning. Custody battles get messy when one parent isn't stable. Stable. Unstable. Unfit. Crazy. The words clanged through my skull like metal. Then my phone buzzed again. It was Daniel. Daniel. Checking in. You okay? My fingers trembled uncontrollably as I typed back a single word. Help. He didn't hesitate. 5 minutes later he was there, moving through the hallway with that calm, steady presence, like he was trained for moments exactly like this. He reached me gently. Lauren, look at me. I tried. My vision was still shaking, but his voice cut through the noise. Breathe with me, he said softly. In and out. You're safe. I'm right here. Safe. The word cracked something open. I matched his breathing.
Slowly, painfully, the trembling eased. My lungs loosened. The world came back into focus, and there he was, kneeling beside me, unwavering. When I finally steadied, he brushed a tear from my cheek with his thumb. "You're not losing your mind," he whispered.
"You're under attack." And as the fluorescent hallway lights glowed above us, one truth echoed louder than my fear. If I didn't fight back soon, Ethan would crush me completely. The panic attack left my body drained and my hands unsteady for hours. I spent the rest of the day at home on the couch while Harper napped, trying to quiet the storm inside my head. Daniel checked on me twice, texting gently, never pushing. His steadiness kept me from slipping back into that terrifying darkness. But nothing could prepare me for the knock on my door at 7:13 p.m. I opened it cautiously, half expecting Ethan, half expecting another threat. Instead, I saw her, Aubrey Dawson, Ethan's mistress. Her mascara was smudged, blonde hair frizzy from wind, breath shaky like she'd run the whole way here. She clutched a thick file folder against her chest. "Lauren," she said, voice trembling,
"I need to talk to you." My stomach twisted with disgust and confusion. "You shouldn't be here." "No, please." Tears filled her eyes. "You don't understand. He's dangerous. He's not who you think he is." I let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, trust me. I know." But Aubrey shook her head violently. "No, you don't." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "He's trying to frame you." The air left my lungs. She held up the folder with shaking hands. "I found these in his desk. Emails, audio messages, plans. He told someone he could prove you were unstable. He said if things went bad with the investigation, he'd—" Her voice cracked. "He'd make you take the fall." A cold chill slithered down my spine. I let her in. She spread the documents across my dining table, printed emails between Ethan and two coworkers, messages coordinating false accusations, even copies of forged medical notes implying I had anxiety episodes at school. Then she pulled out her phone. "There's one more thing," she whispered. She pressed play. Ethan's voice filled the room, smooth, arrogant, chilling. Lauren's predictable, emotional. If I need to protect myself, she's the easiest scapegoat. Judges eat that stuff up. A tearful mother, please. And if she fights back, then I'll take Harper. That'll shut her down. My knees nearly buckled. Aubrey wiped her cheeks. I didn't realize what he was doing until he threatened me, too. I thought he loved me, but he only loves control. Her words echoed through my bones. "He's going to destroy you unless you stop him first." For the first time in weeks, something fierce rose inside me. Not fear, fire. A cold, righteous fire. I looked at the pile of evidence, the trap he built, the lies he crafted, the future he planned on my ruins, and I whispered, "He messed with the wrong mother." Because now, I finally had the weapon I needed to take Ethan down. For the first time in weeks, the fear weighing down my chest loosened, just enough for me to breathe. The evidence Aubrey brought wasn't just damning. It was explosive. It was the kind of proof that could flip everything Ethan built upside down. I gathered the documents with trembling hands, each piece feeling like a weapon I never knew I had the right to hold. When Daniel arrived, after I texted him, "You need to see this now," he studied every page, every screenshot, every recording. His jaw tightened, his expression shifting from concern to something sharper, protective, focused. "This is big," he said. "Bigger than anything we thought." "So, what do I do?" My voice sounded small even to me. Daniel placed a hand on the back of a chair, leaning in. We stop playing defense. We take the offensive. The words sent a shiver through me. He continued. Ethan thinks he's 3 steps ahead. He's not. Not anymore. We're going to build a case so airtight that he won't have room to breathe. It was the first time anyone said we. Not you, not I. We. He called Julia right away. Within the hour, the 3 of us sat around my dining table like a makeshift war council. Julia spread the documents out, her eyes scanning quickly. This changes everything. These recordings, these emails, they're beyond incriminating.
He's not only manipulating you, he's conspiring to defraud the court.
A flicker of hope sparked inside me. So I can win? Julia met my gaze with a steady confidence I desperately needed. You won't just win. You'll bury him. Hearing those words felt like stepping out of a long, dark tunnel. We worked for hours, organizing, labeling, sorting timelines, preparing statements. Harper slept on the couch wrapped in a blanket, while the 3 of us created the blueprint to dismantle Ethan's lies, brick by brick. Every new page Julia added to the legal folder felt like I was reclaiming something he stole from me, my voice, my dignity, my future. Lauren, Daniel said quietly, leaning closer. You're stronger than you think. I didn't answer, but I felt something shift inside me, like a small flame catching wind. Ethan wanted a war? Fine. I was done hiding.
Done being the quiet, compliant wife he could mold and mute. He shattered the family we had, tore holes in the life I built, and nearly convinced me I was powerless. But now, I finally had power, and I was going to use every bit of it. The courthouse smelled like old paper, polished floors, and tension thick enough to taste. I walked in clutching Julia's binder of evidence, my palms damp, my heart a frantic drum in my chest. Daniel walked beside me, not touching, not hovering, but his steady presence felt like armor. Inside the courtroom, Ethan was already seated with his attorney. He wore a charcoal suit, hair perfect, expression calm and concerned, like he was the one betrayed. When he spotted me, he offered a sympathetic smile, as if he still believed he could manipulate me with softness, as if the monster behind that mask wasn't already exposed. Judge Hall entered, and everyone stood. My knees nearly buckled, but I stayed upright. I owed that to Harper. I owed that to myself. The hearing began. Ethan's attorney spoke first, smoothly painting a picture of a troubled wife, overwhelmed, emotional, unfit to manage the stress of parenting. I felt my stomach twist as he described me like I was a fragile piece of glass, unsafe, unstable. Then, my turn. Julia rose, her voice steady. Your Honor, the allegations against my client are not just false. They are deliberately constructed, and we have evidence of intentional manipulation. The judge raised an eyebrow. Proceed. Julia opened the binder. Page 1. Emails. Ethan coordinating false narratives with coworkers. Page 2. Bank statements showing illegal transfers. Page 3. Screenshots of Zelle payments to Aubrey. Page 4. The hotel charges. Each page felt like stone after stone being removed from my chest. Ethan's attorney scrambled. Your Honor, these documents could be... And then Julia pressed play on the recording. Ethan's voice filled the courtroom. Lauren's predictable, emotional. If I need to protect myself, she's the easiest scapegoat. Custody battles get messy when one parent looks unstable. If she becomes a problem, I'll take Harper. That'll shut her down. The room fell silent. Ethan's face drained of color.
His attorney froze. Judge Hall leaned forward slowly. "Mr. Whitfield, do you have an explanation for this?" Ethan opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Panic replaced his polished mask. The courtroom watched him unravel in real time. Julia closed the binder. "Your Honor, my client has endured manipulation, gaslighting, financial abuse, and an orchestrated plan to destroy her credibility. She deserves protection,
And her daughter deserves safety." For the first time in months, I lifted my chin, not in fear, but in strength. Because the truth wasn't just spoken, it detonated. The courtroom felt frozen in time. Ethan sat rigid beside his attorney, eyes darting wildly between the judge, the evidence binder, and me. Every perfectly rehearsed smile, every softened tone, every carefully curated lie, crumbling right in front of him. Judge Hall adjusted her glasses and folded her hands. "Mr. Whitfield," she said calmly, "the recordings presented demonstrate clear intent to manipulate both the court and your spouse. Your financial behavior is concerning. Your credibility is compromised." Ethan swallowed hard, jaw twitching. "Your Honor, if I could just—" "You've said enough," she cut in sharply. The room fell completely silent. She turned her attention to me. "Mrs. Whitfield, based on the evidence provided, the court acknowledges a pattern of emotional abuse, financial misconduct, and coercive control against you." My breath hitched. Then, like a door finally opening after being locked for years, she continued. "You are granted full legal and physical custody of your daughter, Harper Whitfield." A sound escaped me, half sob, half exhale. My vision blurred as tears filled my eyes. Ethan lunged forward in his seat. "That's ridiculous. She's unstable. She ran away. Judge Hall slammed her gavel once. "One more outburst, and I will hold you in contempt. Sit down." Ethan froze, color flooding his face, a mixture of rage and disbelief. The judge continued. "Furthermore, due to clear evidence of malicious intent, Mr. Whitfield, you will have supervised visitation only, pending completion of a psychological evaluation." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Ethan's mask shattered completely. He gripped the table so hard, his knuckles turned white. "This isn't fair," he whispered harshly. "She's turning everyone against me." "No, Ethan, you did that yourself." Julia squeezed my hand under the table. Daniel watched from the back row, his expression steady, proud, protective. Judge Hall gathered the final papers. "Lastly, a formal investigation into your financial misconduct will proceed at the state level. Court is adjourned." The gavel struck. The sound echoed like thunder. Ethan's attorney tried to calm him, but Ethan wasn't listening. His eyes locked onto mine, wild, defeated, burning with the realization that he'd finally lost control of me, of everything. I stood, legs trembling but steady. As I turned to leave the courtroom, Daniel stepped forward. "You did it?" he whispered. "No," I breathed, wiping my tears. "We did." And for the first time in years, I felt something powerful rise inside me. Freedom. Real freedom. The days after the verdict felt surreal, like stepping into a world I'd only watched through glass, never believing I could live in it. For the first time in years, the air around me felt breathable, light, safe. But the biggest change came 2 weeks later, when Harper and I moved into our new place. It wasn't extravagant.
A modest two-bedroom apartment in a quiet corner of Jersey City, with wide windows that faced the skyline and morning sun that poured in like hope. The kind of place where nothing bad had ever happened. A clean slate. I carried the last box inside, Harper skipping beside me, humming to herself. "Mommy," she said, peering around the living room, "this feels happy." Happy. The word hit me harder than I expected. I set the box down and knelt to her level.
It does, sweetheart. It really does. She hugged me tightly, her small arms wrapping around my neck with a sincerity only children possess.
"Is this our forever home?" A lump formed in my throat.
It's the beginning of it.
Later that afternoon, after Harper fell asleep among half-unpacked toys, I made myself a warm cup of Starbucks instant latte and stepped onto our tiny balcony. The city shimmered below, steady and alive. My new life, quiet, uncertain, but finally mine, stretched softly before me. A gentle knock on the door pulled me back inside. Daniel stood there, holding a small potted plant. "Housewarming gift," he said, almost shy. "I figured you could use something that grows." I smiled, really smiled. "Come in." He looked around the apartment, nodding softly. "This place suits you." "It feels like I can breathe here," I admitted.
Like I'm not waiting for something bad to happen. Daniel's eyes softened.
"Nothing bad is coming for you anymore, Lauren. Not if I can help it." The sincerity in his voice wrapped around me like a warm blanket. No pressure, no expectations. Just presence. Steady. Certain. We stood in a kitchen, surrounded by boxes and half-built furniture. But somehow the room felt full of peace, of possibility, of something quietly blossoming. Harper's sleepy voice called from the hallway. "Daniel?" He smiled. "Hey, kiddo. Like the new place?" She nodded. "It feels safe." His eyes met mine. "So does she," I whispered. And in that moment, in a small apartment filled with cardboard and hope, I realized this wasn't just a new home. It was a new beginning. For me, for Harper, for the life we were finally free to build.
3 months after the verdict, life finally settled into something soft, something warm, something I hadn't felt in years. Peace wasn't loud. It wasn't triumphant. It was quiet mornings with Harper's laughter, evenings spent cooking simple meals in our small kitchen, and weekends where the only anxiety I felt was deciding which park she wanted to visit first. Healing didn't come all at once. It arrived in gentle waves. But the moment I truly felt free came on a Sunday afternoon. Harper was down for her nap. I was unpacking the last box, the one I had avoided because it held pieces of my old life, when the doorbell rang. That sound used to make my heart drop. Now, it made me curious. I opened the door to find Daniel standing there, holding a paper bag from the little Italian deli down the street. "Thought you two might want lunch," he said, smiling softly. I stepped aside. "Come in." He walked into the kitchen, setting the bag down.
"You seem lighter," he said. "Happier." "I am." And for the first time, the words were fully true. We unpacked sandwiches and salad, laughing about how Harper insisted Legos belonged in the silverware drawer. The sunlight streamed through the window, casting a warm glow over the room. It felt like a scene from a life I never believed I'd get to live. After we ate, Daniel grew quieter. Not distant, just thoughtful. He leaned against the counter, folding his arms. "Lauren," he said gently, "I have something I want to tell you." My heart fluttered, not with fear, but with a strange, new anticipation. "I didn't help you because I felt obligated," he said. "I helped you because I care about you. And Harper. I care a lot." Warmth bloomed in my chest. He took a slow breath. "But I'll only take a step forward if you want it too."
You've been through enough pressure. You don't need more.
I stepped closer, close enough to see the softness in his eyes, the steadiness in his expression. "I do want it," I said, but slowly, gently. He smiled. "Whatever pace you need." Before I could say another word, small footsteps padded into the kitchen. "Daniel!" Harper beamed, rubbing her sleepy eyes. "Did you bring food?" He laughed. "Always." She hugged his leg without hesitation, and something inside me settled, certain and peaceful. I looked at him, really looked, and realized the last time the doorbell rang, my life shattered. This time, it opened the door to the life I was meant for. The life I chose. The life I finally deserved. The life that was finally safe. So, that's how our story comes to an end.
And if you're still here with me, listening until this very moment, then something inside this journey must have touched your heart in its own quiet way. Maybe you saw a part of yourself in Lauren's pain, in her courage, or maybe in her slow, steady healing. And that's okay, because life heals in layers, not in straight lines. You know, the Stoics often said, "The obstacle is the way." And maybe that's what this whole story reminds us of. Sometimes the very thing meant to break us becomes the thing that finally sets us free. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Lauren didn't get her freedom from luck. She reclaimed it the moment she chose herself. And maybe that's your reminder too, that no matter who tried to dim your light, your strength is still yours. You're allowed to start again. You're allowed to choose peace. If this story found you at the right time, if it made you feel seen, understood, or a little less alone, then stay with us. Like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe so you don't walk the next story alone. We're here, and so are you, stronger than you think. Before we close, I want to make something very clear for everyone watching. This story is a work of fiction, created purely for emotional storytelling and personal reflection. It does not represent real people, real events, or real legal situations. Any resemblance to actual individuals is entirely coincidental. Our goal is to explore themes of healing, resilience, and self-worth, not to give legal, psychological, or professional advice. If you're going through something similar in real life, please reach out to qualified professionals or trusted support systems. These narratives are meant to inspire strength, not replace real help. Thank you for being here, for listening with an open heart, and for supporting the channel. Your kindness keeps these stories alive. Stay safe, take care of yourself, and remember, you are never alone.